Excuse me. Your facilitator today is the author of Cruising Through Caregiving, Reducing the Stress of Caring for Your Loved One, and a gerontology instructor at Johns Hopkins Certificate on Aging program. Please join us in welcoming Jennifer L. Fitzpatrick, MSW, LCSWC, CSP.
Hi, welcome back to the virtual book club for Dementia Caregivers, session 12, Making Decisions When Your Loved One Can't, Caregivers at the Helm. In chapter 12 of Cruising Through Caregiving, we talk about this important topic and all about why it's so critical for the captain of the caregiving ship to remain in charge. Before we jump into our content, we're going to say a quick hello and thank you to Hilarity for Charity and Oasis Senior Advisors, hilarityforcharity.org, oasissenior-advisors.com. Without their support, the book club wouldn't exist, so please feel free to pass this on to any dementia caregivers that you know that could benefit from it. It's going to live on, and it continues to live on our YouTube page and on the cruisingthroughcaregiving.com page. Throughout book club, and if you've read Cruising Through Caregiving, you know that your loved one with dementia, of course, is an adult. In fact, I devoted an entire chapter about your loved ones have grown up. It doesn't matter if they're 105, it doesn't matter if they have Alzheimer's and they have 20 other conditions, they're still an adult. They've lived a full life. But there's a big but when it comes to dementia caregiving. Your loved one is going to start to really, if they haven't already, struggle with decision making. The but is, whether or not you like it, you are going to get to a point where you or someone in your caregiving crew is going to have to take the helm. You're going to have to take over. You're going to have to make decisions. That does not mean that we don't care about what your loved one's opinions are. That doesn't mean that we don't care about what your loved one thought about before they had the dementia diagnosis. But it means that your input and the input of your caregiving crew tends to become more and more important. In this chapter, I talk about the concept of dementia, and learning the language of dementia is much like getting around a foreign country. So in Cruising Through Caregiving, I use the analogy of visiting one of these three countries, and maybe you recognize some of these flags. The first one we have is Ireland. I liken Ireland to an American going to Ireland with no prep. That's like the early stages of dementia. The mid stages of dementia, I liken that to an American going to Italy, mid flag, with no prep ahead of time. Mid stages of Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. And the final flag, which most people don't usually recognize, but we do write about it in Cruising Through Caregiving, is the flag for Yemen. And I liken that if an American went to Yemen with no prep ahead of time, and they went, it's very much like the late stages of dementia. So let's talk about what that really means for you. In the early stages of dementia, if your loved one is in the early stages, you know that there are times when they're just like you and I. They can make good decisions. They seem like themselves. But of course, they have moments where they're not themselves. So let's pretend that I said to you today, wherever you're located, after the book club, a limousine's coming to your home. They're going to pick you up. They're going to drive you to your closest airport, and you and whoever your favorite person is, they're going to take you to Ireland. And if you've never been to Ireland and you haven't done any prep, maybe you haven't been reading the travel magazines or looking up anything about Ireland online or the Rick Steves books, you're going to be fine. Getting around and communicating in Ireland is very similar to communicating and getting around in the United States. It's greener. They probably drink more Guinness than most of us. But in Ireland, you're going to be okay getting around. You can use your body language. They mostly speak English, but you're going to be okay. So not doing a lot of prep, I liken that to communicating with somebody who has dementia in the early stages. And in the early stages, the person that you love who has dementia often can make his or her own decisions. They can weigh in. They can have moments of clarity where they say, you know, I really shouldn't drive. Or, wow, is it really a good idea for me to still be working if they still have a job? Let's go to the mid stages. So the mid stages I liken to visiting Italy with no prep. And again, the mid stages of dementia are trickier. We start to see more hallucinations and delusions. We start to see more forgetting familiar faces. We see more wandering. We see forgetting a lot of important facts. You're going to see a constant asking of questions over and over again, even though you may have just answered that question. And so in Cruising Through Caregiving, I liken going to Italy with no prep. You don't speak Italian, and you're going to, say, the Tuscany area of Italy, where people don't speak a whole lot of English. And you get dropped off there, but you're going to struggle if you haven't done prep. But that said, it's not going to be completely foreign. The food's going to look familiar. If you took a Romance language in high school, you're going to be able to pick up on some words. Your body language will translate. If you want a glass of water and you do this, you lift up your hand, someone's probably going to understand what you mean. So visiting a foreign country like Italy is similar. You're going to have struggles. There's going to be challenges. But if you went with no prep, you'd be all right. And I liken that to the mid stages of dementia, because in the mid stages of dementia, the person has a lot of time where they really struggle communicating with us, and they really, really struggle making good decisions or having good judgment. The judgment is constantly going downhill as the days, the weeks, the months, and the years go by when someone has Alzheimer's or Lewy body or frontotemporal dementia. And finally, we move to Yemen, which I liken, if you go to Yemen with no prep whatsoever, you're going to the late stages of dementia. And in the late stages of dementia, if you are not familiar with communicating with somebody with dementia, you're really going to struggle, much like you would struggle if you went to Yemen with no prep. They speak Arabic. Women don't have as many rights. There's dress codes. It's very, very much an undeveloped place. And you might try to communicate by body language, but you might insult somebody. You might wind up in a lot of trouble. It's going to be tough, really tough. It's going to be a lot harder than Italian, because the food's going to look a lot different. Again, if you took a Romance language in high school, that's probably not going to help you too much in Yemen. So I liken that to the way you're going to be communicating with someone in the later stages. It's much, much more challenging if you haven't prepped and learned. And the person's decision-making is all but gone. Their ability to talk to you is all but gone. They might have some words still, but they're very few. They're going to be communicating mostly with touch, with body language, with facial expressions, noise. They're usually not going to be carrying on too much of a conversation. So again, I want to say that all of us, when we're loving somebody or taking care of a person that we care about that has dementia, it progressively gets harder with judgment, harder with decision-making, harder with being able to communicate with one another, like visiting a foreign country unprepared. And it gets harder as time goes by. And in the beginning, I think a lot of us, when there's a new diagnosis, and if the person is truly in the early stages, where some people, the basketball coach, Pat Summitt, several years ago was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's disease. She was working for a period of time. And I know some of you might know people that still had jobs. They're still driving. They still live by themselves. And in the beginning, that's when we want to get their decision-making, talk to them. What do you want? Update your advance directives, update your will and your trust, because we want them to have as much input as possible about their future. If they ever had to move to senior living, what kind of amenities right now, if you had to move, would be important to you? So getting them to talk in the early stages is very, very important. But once they get into those mid and late stages, we want to take into consideration their wishes. but we really have to be at the helm. A lot of families struggle with this concept. They really struggle. And again, as Darlene said in the beginning, if you want to comment, you want to ask a question, feel free to write in at any point. But people struggle because it creeps up on us. The progress of the dementia can sometimes creep up on us. And sometimes we don't realize how much maybe our wife or our dad has changed because we're with them a lot. It takes sometimes one of those persons from your caregiving crew who's not always with you to stop by. If they haven't seen dad in 6 weeks and they come by and they really see that dad's not able to communicate as well as he was a couple weeks ago, or he really can't make a decision, or he can't weigh in on a decision. So what kinds of items do we need to take the helm with? So it's really important to take the helm with living arrangements. What do we want to think about as far as a living arrangement? Is the living arrangement safe? Is the living arrangement comfortable? Is the person with dementia getting his or her needs met? Is the caregiving crew able to manage the living arrangement, whether that's at home, at a family member's house, at home, at the person who has dementia's home? Driving, can this person still drive? Now, I will tell you, I believe you definitely should speak to your physician about this. But my opinion is, generally speaking, most people, in my opinion, when they have a dementia diagnosis, should not be driving. We should make arrangements to get them around another way, whatever that may be, whether it's we're getting them a program where we have an aide that drives them, whether family and friends are driving them, whether in our county or our city there's a transportation program that can take them where they need to go, maybe through the Area Agency on Aging. Finances. I know I've worked with families, and I'm sure many of the professionals who are viewing this or are on live, you work with families who they say, well, dad wanted to leave every grandkid a certain amount of money. We surely can't spend that for home care aid. We surely can't spend that for a nursing home or an assisted living. The caregiving crew has to start making these choices. And those choices, when you're at the helm, it has to be not just for your own, the person who has dementia's own good, but it has to be for the caregiving crew too. The whole theme of cruising through caregiving is the person who has dementia is important. They are, but you are important too. Your adult kids and grandkids and your spouse, they are important. Socialization, is your loved one getting enough stimulation being around other people? Holidays, how should we spend holidays? This is an area we see all the time where the caregivers struggle with the helm. When it comes to it, depending on what time of year you're viewing this, if you're viewing it live, we're currently in summer, but maybe you're viewing this around Thanksgiving time, maybe in October, and you're thinking, do I bring my mom out of assisted living for the big Thanksgiving party that the family has? We have a big gathering. And we might want to say to dad or mom, and maybe mom or dad are in mid-stage Alzheimer's, and we say, do you want to go to Thanksgiving dinner? And they say yes, because when we ask that question, Thanksgiving dinner elicits all kinds of wonderful responses. But when we talk to the staff at the senior living community who spend a lot of time with them, when we talk to other family members, people are concerned that maybe it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. If our loved one who has dementia comes to the holiday party, maybe it's going to be too many people, maybe it's going to be too difficult. And so certainly we want to think about what would please that person, what would make them happy. But sometimes when we ask these questions of the person, do you want to move out of your home? Do you think you should stop driving? That comes down to communication. Can they really understand you? When they hear the word Thanksgiving, they might smile and they think of a pleasant memory. But do they really understand that there's going to be 30 people at the big open house at your daughter-in-law's? So we have to be at the helm. When your loved one gets to the point where he or she truly has trouble with judgment, has a hard time remembering what kinds of settings they do well in or what's safe, we really need to be at the helm. Communication. Remember, as the disease progresses, our ability to understand the person with dementia is going downhill, and their ability to understand us is going downhill. We need to rely a lot more on facial expressions, body language, eye contact, touch. Touch is so important. And socialization in dementia care is critical. A lot of times in the early stages, persons with dementia will tell us, I never want to move out of my home. And if you joined us for the week where we talked about promises in dementia caregiving, we went through that extensively. Should we keep a promise? Is it a good idea? And a lot of times, family caregivers, one of the reasons they want to keep their loved one home indefinitely is because of such a promise. But is there socialization happening? Is that person isolated? These are just a few of the areas where we, as the family caregivers, need to take the helm. We need to be the decision maker. Going back to communication, I want to share with you an example, and I talk about this a bit in Cruising Through Caregiving. Two dudes watching football. Now, I'm not saying that the story I'm about to share with you applies to every man. But I can tell you that it applies to a lot of men that I know in my family, a lot of the friends that I have that are men. And I'll give you an example. My husband and his friend, Joe, once went out for a few hours. And I know Joe had recently broken up with his girlfriend. And my husband and Joe were hanging out for several hours, watching a game. And it got to a point where he came home and I said, how's everything going? How's he doing? And he says, oh, he's fine. I said, well, how's he feeling about the breakup with the girlfriend? And he says, I don't really know. And I said, you don't really know? Now, any ladies out there, a lot of ladies at least out there, probably know what I'm talking about. A lot of us ladies would say, Joe, how you doing? How's everything going? You feeling better? Are you still in touch? We might check in with his emotional well-being. And I know for Sean, that didn't happen. And over again, we often see men not necessarily needing to have a deep emotional conversation in order to connect. When Sean came home, he says, oh, we watched football. We had a couple of beers. We hung out. They just enjoyed each other's company, and that was enough. They connected that way. And I talk about this concept in Cruising Through Caregiving because I think it's important to remember that as the person with dementia progresses through the disease, often they're going to be less likely to be able to weigh in on emotional conversations or even pragmatic conversations. You might say to mom, would you like to go to Marianne's high school graduation? It's so exciting. She's winning an award. That might not be a great conversation to have with her. What might be a great thing to be spending your time with your mother doing is painting her nails or giving her a hand massage or watching, if she likes football, watching a football game. So connecting in that way, but asking her past early stages for her opinion on what she needs, what she wants. A lot of times she's not always going to be able to verbalize it. So my recommendation in dementia caregiving, as far as communication goes, is no matter the gender of either party, whether it be the caregiver or the person with dementia, know that as the disease progresses, your interaction with your loved one is going to be more like two dudes watching a game, two dudes just spending time together, two ladies watching a movie or listening to music together, do an activity, sit together, be together, but expecting and almost demanding a response that makes sense to us is often not going to be in the cards. And I believe that this is where a lot of caregivers struggle when it comes down to taking the helm. They want to ask their loved one, are you okay if you move? Are you okay if we take the car keys away? And a lot of times we need to simply start to take action because the interactions that we're going to have with them as the disease progresses are going to be listening to music together, giving them a hand massage, watching a football or a baseball game, taking a walk together. Those are going to be the sorts of activities that are going to be more meaningful, and getting a lot of information from them about their opinions is going to be challenging. We're going to find their opinion more frequently when we watch their body language, when we watch their facial expressions. So if you have comments or questions on what we're talking about, if you're joining us live, feel free to write in. But I recommend the communication as the disease progresses become more dude-like. Now I'd like to take a few moments to thank our sponsors again, Hilarity for Charity and Oasis Senior Advisors. Hilarity for Charity is hilarityforcharity.org. Oasis Senior Advisors is oasisssenioradvisors.com. And we would like to now welcome Tim Ivankovich, the CEO of Oasis Senior Advisors, who generously, he and his franchises have generously sponsored this program in coordination with Hilarity for Charity. Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon, Jen. How are you?
Tim, if you would like to share your camera, we'd love to see you, but don't feel like you have to.
No, I'm trying to. It's giving me a fail for some reason.
That's okay. I know we've got a lot of storms going up and down the East Coast today, so if you're getting a fail, please don't worry about it. Tim, any comments or anything you want to share with us today about our topic, about what we're talking about today?
Yeah, Jen, it's really interesting. I think one of your early slides that I really liked, where you're talking about they're still an adult, the senior's still an adult. And one of the things that our franchisees run into quite regularly is the guilt factor, where the kids, the children of the senior, don't want to ask those questions because they feel guilty that their parent has taken care of them all these years, and now they just don't feel like it's, they have the right to take over and be the parent now. And that's one of the things that we do in talking to them and saying, at some point you have to ask those tough questions. You have to get over the guilt of being the parent to your parent to make sure they're going to be in a good place.
And it's interesting that you say, I think that common denominator of guilt penetrates adult kids, spouses, grandkids. A lot of people feel that guilt. But as you said, Tim, when in those early stages, you have that window for a period of time. It doesn't last forever. And so you want to have those conversations. Listen, the day of the diagnosis, no. The week of maybe not even the week or a month after the diagnosis, but you only have a window. It could be weeks, months, it might be a year or two, but you don't have forever. Some people with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia live a decade or more. We've got to get, what do they want early?
Yeah, exactly. And that is one of the things our franchisees are really wonderful at, of holding that family's hands and walking them through that and helping them understand it is the right thing to do, as difficult as it is, helping them understand that it is in the benefit and best interest of their mom or dad, for sure.
Most people with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, they can't live at home for the rest of their lives.
Correct.
It's so physically taxing in addition to emotional. So tell us how Oasis Senior Advisors can help.
Yeah, really, again, it's all important for people to understand we're an absolutely free service. So just reaching out to any of our franchisees across the country, we have about 80 of them or so across the country in 26 states. We're easy to find, www.thecleaningauthority.com, not the Cleaning Authority, oasisssenioradvisors.com. There's a Freudian slip for you. oasisssenioradvisors.com, and reach out to one of our senior care advisors, and again, they can walk them through the process and, like I said, really hold their hand and help them through a difficult and challenging time.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, Oasis Senior Advisors, I recommend if you want to work with them, just give them a call or shoot them an email. And if you think that at some point your loved one might need to leave the home, move to senior living, they can walk you through the process, talk to you about your choices, your options, but do it early. Do it in the early stages. Make that relationship with Oasis They also are really wonderful with giving referrals, even if you don't need senior living, connecting you with maybe home care, elder law, other service, care management, other services that you might need as a caregiver. They're there to help you. So just reach out to Oasis Senior Advisors early and often. They are in about 80 markets right now across the United States.
So, yep. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Tim. And today, unfortunately, Jojo Drake, Communications and with Hilarity for Charity, was supposed to join us, but she actually had to jump a last-minute flight. So I want to just share with you a little bit about Hilarity for Charity. Hilarity for Charity was founded by Seth Rogen and Lauren Miller Rogen. Lauren's mom has young onset dementia, and they were just smart enough to come up with the idea to put together this nonprofit that helps family caregivers of persons with dementia. And how they can help you is if you are a dementia caregiver, if you are struggling, maybe you're on a budget, maybe you feel like you could use some help in the home, you can apply for a grant to get up to 24 hours a week for 6 months at a time. I believe that's the maximum grant. But you can apply for that at hilarityforcharity.org. Yes, hilarityforcharity.org. But also, they also accept, and those are a rolling basis. There's no deadline. They choose grant recipients every single month in the United States and Canada. But they also have support groups. They're actually in the fall going to be rolling out a brain health program. And they also have, if you want to share your story of dementia caregiving, there is a link here, hilarityforcharity.org/stories/ and they like to share on their social media stories of caregivers dealing with dementia so other caregivers don't feel alone. So don't hesitate to reach out to Oasis Senior Advisors and Hilarity for Charity. They are both wonderful organizations, both free and are a resource for you. Let's talk a little bit about how do we take over the helm. And this is a little bit tricky because I've worked with countless families over the years where the daughter or the son or the spouse will say, well, my husband won't let me take him to adult day, or my mom won't allow strangers in the home, or my grandmother said she won't move to senior living. I want you to really think about this. If your loved one does not have dementia, you really can't do anything about that. That's very different. But if you're a dementia caregiver and today your loved one believes that Ronald Reagan is president and believes that it's the middle of winter when it's the summer and believes that you're their sister but you're their grandmother, and in the next breath tells you that they are never moving to senior living, you got to realize that you're not dealing with somebody who's able to reason anymore. You're not dealing with somebody that has judgment, that can make decisions, that has all the information in front of them. You know who has all the information in front of them? You, the family caregiver. The caregiving crew has all the information in front of them. So how do you take over the helm? The best way to start is gentle guidance. So, for example, I once worked with a family who mom was still living at home and it was going fine. They had family taking turns staying there. And they got to a point where they needed mom to not go out of the house by herself. And the way that they handled that is that when she would go toward the front door, they would guide her and say, Mom, I need your help in the kitchen. Or Mom, you know what? We're going to go garden out back. Or Mom, it's time for us together to leave the house to go take a walk. So gentle guidance, redirection. But as time went on, they did have to put some alarms on the house. They got involved. We talked about last week with the Alzheimer's Association with Tiffany Favors. She was a special guest from the Chicago office. They involved her in safe return because they were concerned that sometimes the gentle guidance wouldn't work for very long. If they said, Mom, come on, we're going to go help me in the kitchen. And then the daughter goes to the restroom for a few minutes and Mom walked out. They enrolled Mom in the safe return program. But gentle guidance is always where it starts. And some other examples that I can share with you, a family that I once worked with, actually, because dad always wanted to drive his car. And we all know driving represents independence for people. And this gentleman always wanted to be driving his car. And what this family opted to do, their gentle guidance was they moved the car to another family member's house. And they used what we call a therapeutic fib. When dad would ask about going somewhere, they would say, the car is in the shop, or the car's not available right now. Remember, we took the car in. And it can be controversial. I know many of us in health and mental health that have specialties in geriatrics do believe that sometimes a therapeutic fib can be good. There are other professionals out there that don't believe in it, but I believe we have to have a lot of options on how to speak to our loved ones and how to help them. I'm not saying that that works for every family, but some sort of gentle guidance is a way to take the helm. Another way to utilize taking the helm is through a power of attorney. Now, a lot of times, believe it or not, I've worked with families where their person needs to go to a memory care unit at a senior living community. And gentle guidance got them there. Mom, we're going to go to this community. We're going to stay here for a while. And slowly but surely, mom has moved into the community. And it might be that that family didn't even have power of attorney yet. But it is one of the reasons we want you to talk to your loved one early stages, is because we want power of attorney in place, healthcare and financial power of attorney, so that they choose who they want making the decisions for them once they are not able to anymore. And so it's really very important it's very challenging to get that stuff in place once the person is no longer decisional. So let's get that, when the diagnosis comes in, let's get that person to choose who do they want. And when you have power of attorney, if the doctors have decided that the person is not decisional, does not have capacity today in this moment, you as power of attorney can either make healthcare decisions or financial decisions or both. We really want to make sure power of attorney gets into the proper hands. The very last resort is guardianship. It is actually possible to take guardianship of your loved one, which means that you are legally in charge of that person and you have to go to court to get that. In most cases, I sometimes make the comparison, or bring some levity to the situation. If everybody who had dementia got a guardian, I don't know that the courts would have time for anything else. Very rarely does somebody with dementia have a guardian appointed to them. And the reason is because usually gentle guidance, power of attorney, that's enough. But let's say you have dad who lives independently and you have tried guiding him, and you saying to him, Dad, you can't drive, or we do need to move you, or I need you to move into my house, we're going to move you. And he absolutely, maybe he screams at you and says, get out of my house. Maybe he calls the police, and he has a moment of clarity when the police come and he says, this woman, I don't know her, she's trying to tell me I have to leave my house. Those things happen. And when those sorts of things happen, that's when the legal system can help with guardianship. So these are some ways to take over the helm. But as usual, I encourage you to be going to support groups, talking to other people who have taken over the helm. Just remember that we're not trying to take away all their autonomy. Your loved one should still make some decisions, but when it comes to safety, when it comes to where they live, can they drive, should they go outside by themselves, when you see a silver alert on the highway sign, that means that somebody with dementia has driven away. People with dementia get on trains, they get in cars, they walk out of their homes, and sometimes there's very tragic situations that occur. So just because you've taken over the helm, though, of course, doesn't mean that your loved one doesn't get to decide anything. Let them, do they want to wear the red shirt or the purple shirt? Do they want orange juice or do they want apple juice? giving them some decisions, but often keep in mind that having those decisions made is not going to be, do you want apple juice or do you want orange juice? It's going to be maybe putting both containers in front of them and seeing which one they touch, or putting both cups in front of them and seeing which one they go for. Because as these diseases progress, their ability to communicate with you is going downhill, and our ability to communicate with them is going downhill. So we want to take over the helm, but we want to be mindful. I know I've worked with many families over the years who would be very concerned about diet. All mom wants right now is chocolate chip cookies. And I think you have to talk to the doctor, but I think you have to do a cost-benefit of an analysis. If mom doesn't want string beans and she wants cookies, she has a terminal illness. Is it really that bad if she eats the cookies? Now, there certainly can be repercussions that maybe aren't worth it. Maybe she has dietary restrictions that are going to land her in the hospital, and it's going to be a big problem. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't let her eat cookies all day, but I'm saying to think about it. Are you, your loved one does have a terminal disease, and if they want to sometimes make poor choices and it's not worth it to try to encourage or give gentle guidance toward eating the string beans, keep that in mind too, because we don't want to take away all choice from them. And of course, always be talking to your physician, your doctor about these issues. But that said, also rely on the resources. We've talked about so many free resources like the Alzheimer's Association, like the support groups through the Hilarity for Charity and the Alzheimer's Association that are there for you. So know that there's many ways to take over the helm. Tim Ivankovich, the CEO of Oasis Senior Advisors, said, it's not easy. The guilt is often going to be there. This is my dad. He was the patriarch of the family. He always made great decisions for himself. He was so smart. And he is still smart. It's just that his brain is broken now. His judgment is not what it once was. It's our job. We have all the information in front of us. He usually doesn't. Do you need to course correct? Are you giving too much authority and power to a loved one who doesn't have judgment abilities, doesn't have reasoning skills anymore? Have you turned over the helm? Do you need to get it back? Do you need to take the helm from your loved one? So do you need to course correct? And a couple of questions to ask: how's your loved one? Are they safe? Are they comfortable? Do they seem happy? Are they smiling more than frowning? But also, how's your crew? How's your crew? Are they exhausted? Are they in martyr syndrome? Are they having headaches? If you're doing the exercises in Cruising Through Caregiving, how are they saying that they're feeling? So consider, do you need to course correct? Do you need to take back that helm? Some more resources. We did have Tiffany Favors from the Alzheimer's Association on, and she was a wealth of information about all the terrific programs. But some of the other websites that I love for you, the AFTD.org for frontotemporal dementia, LBDA.org for Lewy body dementia, stroke.org for vascular dementia, and of course, just simple stroke information. But these are some terrific extra resources that can help you to look at understanding your loved one's condition and where they are in the disease process. The more that you understand your loved one's condition, the more you're going to be able to remind yourself, he or she doesn't have the brain power today, the resources. They don't have all the information in front of us. In fact, today, they think it's 1981. And do we really want a person who, in their mind, it's 1981, making decisions based on safety and health? So work to take back that helm. I want to thank one more time Hilarity for Charity and Oasis Senior Advisors, hilarityforcharity.org and oasisssenioradvisors.com for your sponsorship. If you want any more information about either of them, if you go to oasisssenioradvisors.com, you can get all the information about their franchises, find a franchise near you, hilarityforcharity.org, their support groups, You can get all of these book club recordings at cruisingthroughcaregiving.com's page, but also on hilarityforcharity.org. Their YouTube page has all of the recordings as well. And if you haven't read Cruising Through Caregiving and you would like to, please know that it is available in most libraries. So, and also a free excerpt is available at cruisingthroughcaregiving.com. Next week's book club will, if you're joining us live, it will be on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. On Wednesday, I believe the 14th, we are going to talk about chapter 13, and we will look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have questions before next book club, contact me at jen@generationshealth.com.